26 degrees Celsius here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily, your daily dose of sunshine this beautiful Friday morning. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. And look who we have here. The Lady K is back.
Yes, good morning and welcome. I'm Kayla Megwa. Yes, a month away. I missed you. I missed you.
Was that to me or to the viewers?
You.
Oh,
yeah,
that's so sweet.
You, yes. I missed everyone. But I think it was, even though it was supposed to be a break where I was resting, Nigeria will not let you rest.
No,
it does
Kayla.
feel like everything happened in October. But then that's how every month this year
has
felt. But October came with one of the biggest stories, one of the scariest stories, and we're not even sure if it's an actual story yet.
Yeah.
All we're seeing is the ripple effect of this alleged coup plot. And I think that in many ways, you know, for someone...
When you say it, you have to say it in whispers.
Yes, alleged coup. Well, you see, when you think about it, you know, growing up with the military, you know, and things like that, it brought back fears. It wasn't nostalgic. It was terrifying, the concept of it. And it made me to think about where we are as a country, that this sort of story can even leak from anywhere, whether it is true or not, which is why it's pretty upsetting that I'm a little upset that Minister of Information is not going to be here this morning, even though we had told everyone that he was going to be here, because what we really wanted to get from the minister was an update and an explanation as to what is actually going on. Did this happen? Did it not happen? What's this story about to me?
Indeed. So
what's really going on here?
Kayla, so we had heard denials from the military.
Yes.
Denials, well, refusions, if you like, because so say deny, it sounds like when someone is telling a lie. But, you know, when you say we refute it, I mean, that there is no such thing, and that, you know, what they've done, the arrests that they have made have been routine arrests, disciplinary measures. Never mind that the people that they have arrested are as high up as a brigadier general. And they didn't just arrest people like that, you know, off a whim. There's that. And then, okay, so people were saying maybe, and then the service chiefs were changed, and they said, okay, well, maybe there isn't much to that as well, because if you're changing service chiefs as a result of that, the people who will go most likely will be Chief of Intelligence, Chief of Army Staff. Well, we saw that Chief of Army Staff, it would seem he got a promotion
to the Chief of Defense
Staff, and then, you know, Chief of Defense Intelligence was kept.
Yes.
But then there was this raid that happened on the home of Governor Silva, former Governor Silva, because we had heard prior to now that a former Southern governor was involved in this. No names were mentioned. But then this raid happened, and it wasn't by the EFCC. It wasn't by the DSS, it was by the military. So people are just still putting all of these dots out there, and they're making their own conjectures. So you can refute all you want.
Well, I mean, but Marpa, you know, of course, we live through military, so you know that these kinds of situations are very hush-hush. They usually do not come outright and say, you know, unless some person has taken over, and then the person now comes and says, oh, this is what happened that made me take over, you know. But yes, it brought back that memory of raids and intelligence and things like that. Even though, you know, while we're trying to understand what has happened, or whether it happened or not, it does speak to a devolution, because the concept of democracy, and we saw this happening in other countries around Nigeria, the concept of democracy became a little unpopular in many countries around us. And there were fears at the time, Mark, I remember that this could actually come into our country.
Contagious.
It was contagious. Are we going to learn bad behaviors where our military, where we're going to get bad people learning these bad things and trying to propagate it here? And, you know, just the fear that that could have happened is one that we probably need a lot of explanation. And I really wish that the Minister of Information would speak to us, have some kind of official statements on the matter, so the ambiguity and the narratives can stop and we can know where we are and what has happened here.
There was so much we're going to take up the minister on. I know that he's been on this campaign trying to debunk the allegations of a Christian genocide.
Oh yeah, that was another story.
You know, he's been on this campaign all over the world trying to tell everyone who thinks that there is a genocide targeted at Christians that it is not true. However, you know, there are also a lot of other questions, you know, as to how it is that we can even explain what is currently happening. There are those who are pointing to ethnic cleansing. There are those who are pointing to, you know, land grabbing. So many questions, Kayla, begging for answers. But I think that what Nigerians really need is a moment of breather, a moment to just exhale. You spoke to democracy. And only recently, this week, we had former Major General Ishola, who was talking about how when the military has now become the opposition party,
Oh, yeah.
you know, when we're talking about Nigeria derailing to a one-party state, if you do not make democracy possible, you give people impossible choices.
Oh,
so
yes.
I want to imagine that, you know, our politicians are still very committed to the concept of democracy. Democracy within their political parties and democracy outside of their political parties with other political parties. It is in the interest of the ruling party to make sure that other political parties thrive, that people feel that they have options. You know, that they can actually choose between A and B or
Yes.
A, B, and C, as the case might be. But we'll wait and see. I mean, we have a test coming up. There's a new INEC chair. He has a litmus test for him in Anambra, just less than a week away. So it's fingers crossed, but so much to think about, Kayla, unless, of course, we want to quickly take a look at this report, maybe something to make us smile, as the new service chiefs were decorated yesterday.
Oh, yes.
The highlights of these decorations are usually with their wives, their spouses.
The PDA.
The public display of affection.
So we basically, and it's been happening over the years. Even covering the villa used to be a thing. I should just wait. Okay, are they going to kiss? Is it going to be a hug this time? You know, so yes, and we did get a kiss yesterday. But let's see how that particular inauguration by the president, how it all panned out at the presidential villa.
It was a short but eventful ceremony. The decoration of the new service chiefs. Present is the vice president, other service chiefs, the leadership and members of the National Assembly, some governors, ministers, and other dignitaries. The ceremony commences once the president is seated. Starting with the Chief of Defense Staff, his citation is read, and accompanied by his wife, he is decorated with his new rank of general. One after the other, the service chiefs follow that order and are decorated. The Chief of Defense Intelligence, who was retained by the President, Lieutenant General Emmanuel Udendeyi. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Waidi Shaibu. Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Idi Abbas. And the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Kevin Aneke. Speaking shortly afterwards, the CDS pledged to combat terrorism and criminality to ensure Nigeria's safety and economic growth.
I want to assure Mr. President and all Nigerians today that we'll do our utmost best to ensure that we rid Nigeria of all forms of criminality and make Nigeria safer so that socio-economic endeavors can thrive.
In his remarks, President Tinubu applauds the efforts of servicemen and women and their families as he calls for decisive action.
Security threats are constantly evolving, constantly mutating. We must not allow these new threats to fester. We must be decisive and proactive. Let us smash the new snakes right in the head.
The president is clear on the task before the new service chiefs.
I charge you, as the head of our nation's armed forces, to carry out your duties with patriotic zeal Nigerians expect result, and not excuses. We are in a hurry to celebrate peace. Let us deploy technology where necessary. We cannot allow the crisis that began in year 2009 to persist any longer. It is time to defeat the enemies.
The president has directed the service chiefs to work with other security agencies and defeat these enemies once and for all. Clean them up, clear them up. That is the order from the president. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Well, away from the PDAs, which I'm sure you were looking out for, you heard the directive. It was a very serious ceremony yesterday. The president charging the service chiefs to smash the new snakes right on the head with patriotic zeal. He says we're in a hurry to celebrate peace. And I think that's a fine place. When you say we refute it, I mean that there is no such thing, and that, you know, what they've done, the arrests that they have made have been routine arrests, disciplinary measures. Never mind that the people that they have arrested are as high up as a brigadier general. And they didn't just arrest people like that, you know, off a whim. There's that. And then, okay, so people were saying maybe, and then the service chiefs were changed, and they said, okay, well, maybe there isn't much to that as well, because if you're changing service chiefs as a result of that, the people who will go most likely will be chief of intelligence, chief of army staff. But we saw that chief of army staff, it would seem he got a promotion
to the chief of defense
staff, and then, you know, chief of defense intelligence was kept.
Yes.
But then there was this raid that happened on the home of Governor Silva, former Governor Silva, because we had heard prior to now that a former southern governor was involved in this. No names were mentioned. But then this raid happened, and it wasn't by the EFCC, it wasn't by the DSS, it was by the military. So people are just still putting all of these dots out there, and they're making their own conjectures. So you can refute all you want.
Well, I mean, but Marco, you know, of course, we live through military, so you know that these kinds of situations are very hush-hush. They usually do not come outright and say, you know, unless some person has taken over, and then the person now comes and says, oh, this is what happened that made me take over, you know. But yes, it brought back that memory of raids and intelligence and things like that. Even though, you know, while we're trying to understand what has happened, or whether it happened or not, it does speak to a devolution, because the concept of democracy, and we saw this happening in other countries around Nigeria, the concept of democracy became a little unpopular in many countries around us. And there were fears at the time, Mark, where remember that this could actually come into our country.
Contagious.
It was contagious. Are we going to learn bad behaviors where our military, where we're going to get bad people learning these bad things and trying to propagate it here? And, you know, just the fear that could have happened is one that we probably need a lot of explanation. And then I really wish that the Minister of Information would speak to us, have some kind of official statements on the matter, so the ambiguity and the narratives can stop and we can know where we are and what has happened here.
There was so much we're going to take up the minister on. I know that he's been on this campaign trying to debunk the allegations of a Christian genocide.
Oh yeah, that was another story.
You know, he's been on this campaign all over the world trying to tell everyone who thinks that there is a genocide targeted at Christians that it is not true. However, you know, there are also a lot of other questions, you know, as to how it is that we can even explain what is currently happening. There are those who are pointing to ethnic cleansing. There are those who are pointing to, you know, land grabbing. So many questions, Kayla, begging for answers. But I think that what Nigerians really need is a moment of breather. a moment to just exhale. You spoke to democracy, and only recently this week we had former Major General Ishola, who was talking about how when the military has now become the opposition party, you know, when we're talking about Nigeria derailing to a one-party state, if you do not make democracy possible, you give people impossible choices. I want to imagine that, you know, our politicians are still very committed to the concept of democracy. Democracy within their political parties and democracy outside of their political parties with other political parties. It is in the interest of the ruling party to make sure that other political parties thrive, that people feel that they have options, you know, that they can actually choose between A and B or A, B, and C, as the case might be. But we'll wait and see. I mean, we have a test coming up. There's a new INEC chair. He has a litmus test for him in Anambra, just less than a week away. So it's fingers crossed, but so much to think about, Kayla, unless, of course, we want to quickly take a look at this report, maybe something to make us smile, as the new service chiefs were decorated yesterday. The highlights of these decorations are usually with their wives, their spouses.
The PDA.
The public display of affection.
So we basically, and it's been happening over the years. Even covering the villa used to be a thing. I should just wait. Okay, are they going to kiss? Is it going to be a hug this time? You know, so yes, and we did get a kiss yesterday. But let's see how that particular inauguration by the president, how it all panned out at the presidential villa.
It was a short but eventful ceremony. The decoration of the new service chiefs. Present is the vice president, other service chiefs, the leadership and members of the National Assembly, some governors, ministers, and other dignitaries. The ceremony commences once the president is seated. Starting with the Chief of Defense Staff, his citation is read, and accompanied by his wife, he is decorated with his new rank of general. One after the other, the service chiefs follow that order and are decorated. The Chief of Defense Intelligence, who was retained by the President, Lieutenant General Emmanuel Udendeyi. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Waidi Shaibu. Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Idi Abbas. And the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Kevin Aneke. Speaking shortly afterwards, the CDS pledged to combat terrorism and criminality to ensure Nigeria's safety and economic growth.
I want to assure Mr. President and all Nigerians today that we will do our utmost best to ensure that we rid Nigeria of all forms of criminality and make Nigeria safer so that socio-economic endeavors can thrive.
In his remarks, President Tinubu applauds the efforts of servicemen and women and their families as he calls for decisive action.
Security threats are constantly evolving, constantly mutating. We must not allow these new threats to fester. We must be decisive and proactive. Let us smash the new snakes right in the head.
The president is clear on the task before the new service chiefs.
I charge you, as the head of our nation's armed forces, to carry out your duties with patriotic zeal Nigerians expect result and not excuses. We are in a hurry to celebrate peace. Let us deploy technology where necessary. We cannot allow the crisis that began in year 2009 to persist any longer. It is time to defeat the enemies.
The president has directed the service chiefs to work with other security agencies and defeat these enemies once and for all. Clean them up, clear them up. That is the order from the president. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Well, away from the PDAs, which I'm sure you were looking out for, you heard the directive. It was a very serious ceremony yesterday. The president charging the service chiefs to smash the new snakes right on the head with patriotic zeal. He says we're in a hurry to celebrate peace. And I think that's a fine place to anchor that particular report. Of course, as we go to our guest right now, who's been waiting very patiently virtually. We have to thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. Ehi Brima, who is the publisher, editor-in-chief of Niger Times. I'm sure that you were also watching with very keen interest that particular report, which we just aired for our viewers. What did you take away from it, apart from the PDA, of course? Oh dear, Mr. Brima, we froze you on a smile. I do not know if you can still hear us.
I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, loud and clear.
Okay. So, what did you just say? Because I think I missed you for a moment.
Okay, so we're asking what else you took away from that particular decoration of the new military chiefs, some of them old. But they are new positions, at least the Chief of Defense Staff is. What else did you take away? And I was saying, apart from the public display of affection.
Well, I think their jobs are well cut out for them. The Mr. President has charged them to keep Nigeria safe. I think we need to congratulate all of them. It is not easy, really, to secure any space or any country. So these officers and gentlemen, they're really doing a fantastic job, putting their lives at risk. But having said that, Mr. President reminded them that since 2009, we've been having cases of criminality, whether it's banditry, insurgency, terrorism, and that we should smash the snakes right in the head. You said that too. So I want to believe that, as the new Chief of Defense Staff said, there must be collaboration. They need the support of all Nigerians to succeed. They have to change their tactics, definitely. Even if the strategy is not changing, the tactics must change. He talked about patriotism. He talked about loyalty. He talked about innovation. He talked about, I think, interagency collaboration as well. They need to work as a team because the enemy is still out there, as Mr. President said.
Indeed, the enemy is. Their work certainly cut out for them there. But what would you be looking to see? Especially now, you know, myself and Kayla were talking about these rumors of a coup. They've dispelled it in every way that they can. Let me ask you very quickly, do you buy it?
cannot, there's no smoke without fire, Mark. So I believe that I was watching Bayo Ononuga yesterday on another channel, and he said we should not give rumors wings to fly. But with the changes that have been made, yes, they appear to be routine. But you can't blame Mr. President. He says we have a threat that is evolving and rotating, and that the new service chiefs really need to work hard to protect Nigeria. So if you read between the lines without confirming anything, Bayo says, Ononuga says we should wait for the defense headquarters to give us further briefing on the coup rumors, as it were. So, but I think if information is put out there, there'll be no reason for people to speculate or to have stories or rumors about an attempted coup plot. But look at the media reports that we are now getting. It's beginning to really confirm that indeed maybe there was something like that. So we wait for the defense quarters to tell us what has happened. The major shakeup, in the Nigerian army, for example, can speak to that. But of course, what is important is nobody wants any coup right now. I mean, the idea that we're even having this conversation about a coup, whether it's an attempted coup or not, I think it leaves a very sour taste in the mouth. We should protect the democracy that we have since 1999. We'll make our mistakes. Let us correct them. This country belongs to all of us. And so, but giving the proper information and at the right time, I think we'll have to minimize these stories that are just, becoming rumors.
Well, Mr. Brimer, I want to be able to get your thoughts on other issues. Of course, when it comes to the changing of the service chiefs and this whole story about a coup or not a coup, it's one that is disturbing, and you're absolutely correct. Actual information would stop the ambiguity. But then, of course, we kind of understand why some things are not put out there in the open, But it is democracy. We do have to hear from our government officials. But I want to take you up on something else that's happened. The pardons given by the president. Of course, the outcry was really loud when we saw the first list of people. Many people were very upset. And it brought to mind the question about, what about the victims of these crimes? Did you think about them before you made these decisions? What happens when they're out in the open? Have they forgiven the people that put them in jail? What about the safety of those who testified against these, especially for the ones who do drugs? But of course, we saw that review, and many of those sentences have been reduced. I think about just 17 of them are drug-related offenses, but the bulk of them are hijacking a fishing vessel or illegal mining. Talk to us a little bit about this pardons by the president and this review that has happened. Was this the way to go, or is there more that the president can do in this particular matter?
Taylor, nice to have you back. Welcome. Thank you for the question. The pardons, clearly, Nigerians were completely outraged in every part of this country. There are some things that should not happen in the first place. How they compile that list, and I think heads must roll. Mr. President needs to set up a team to investigate how they arrived at those 175 names in the first place. Because it was a major embarrassment, not only to Mr. President, but to the entire country. If Mr. President is not the one to compile those names, excuse me, never mind that list was discussed at the Council of State meeting. They are basically advisors, So Mr. President, ultimately, the buck stops on his desk. And if he has been giving wrong advice or giving a wrong list, some people should pay for it. There has to be sanctions. Because a situation whereby you are having criminals, on that list, whether they are drug offenders, they are corrupt people, I don't know how they got there. So let us not sweep this under the carpet. That has become a way of life in Nigeria. Mr. President, I want to appeal to you that list, thank you for reviewing the list. You'll listen to Nigerians, even though I'm not a lawyer, understand there are even legal issues surrounding the review, but we have to thank Mr. President for the review, because we cannot say, because that list was released initially, therefore it has to be so. Nigerians really, I must also commend Nigerians, for expressing their feelings, their views, and for being outraged, at that list. So who are the people that put that list together? We have to name names. They have to be sanctioned. Heads must roll. That's my point, Kayla. And I think going forward, we have to do a better job.
That's a very important point to make. I didn't even think about it until you said it. The fact that someone advised him to do that first one. Who did that? And we should bring the person to explain the thinking behind coming up with that one. So much that there had to be an outcry and the president had to do a review. So yeah, I'll call for him to...
Maybe that list was padded. We don't know, but they should investigate. We need to know some names were smuggled into that list.
Well, you know, some people will say that it's quite telling, because when this review was done, it wasn't just a review that was done. There was also a move, a significant administrative move from the office of that, you know, the presidential panel, or the prerogative of mercy, has now been moved to the office of the Attorney General, where a lot of people had assumed that panel was domiciled. And so do you think that it is, because some people say, you mean that was in the office of the Ministry of Special Duties? Maybe that explains what exactly would have happened. This was seen more as, you know, a list, a political list, rather than something that was a prerogative of mercy, which is like the other side of justice when something is being done, which ought to have been domiciled there in the very first instance. What did that move tell you?
It just shows that something was wrong in the first place. Now, but the Attorney General and Minister of Justice is the head of that panel, of that committee that, you know, gives the final recommendation. So what happened? How did those names get onto that list? I think he also owes Nigerians an explanation. The Attorney General of the Federation, he's the chief law officer, and he heads that committee. So moving the committee from the Office of the Special Duties to that of the Attorney General, yes, I agree. But he was part of the process. How did we get those 75 names? And what necessitated the review? Because Nigerians said, no, this is totally unacceptable. And again, I want to repeat, you must thank Mr. President for listening to Nigerians and having that review. Now you can say many names are taken off the list. Kidnappers, drug traffickers, corrupt people. What was the whole idea? That is why it is now making people to agree with those who say that list was politically motivated. Maybe they have their agenda, I don't know. And even the timing too. It's another factor, another issue.
Well, quite a lot to mull over. You just mentioned padding. And in everything, we cannot rule that out. I mean, not to excuse, but at the end of the day, you know, a lot of questions really need to be asked. And I don't know, do you think that with this call that people have made, because some people say, well, there's been a review done and it was seen that the wrong has been righted, so to speak. But this extra call now that we're making to say, look, this is not enough. Yes, you've done the review. We're happy with that. However, an investigation. There must be questions asked as to how we got here in the very first instance. Do you think that the government will heed that? And where should we place the pressure for that call for an investigation?
Exactly what we're doing now. Mr. President and his team that are watching us, I have to repeat to Mr. President, this matter should not be swept under the carpet. How did we arrive at those names in the first place? Heads have to roll because it was a major embarrassment, not just to the office of the president or the president himself, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but to the whole country. Everybody was outraged. Nigerians both at home and abroad, they were asking questions, what's going on in your country or in our country? You know, so please, let that investigation take place. Names must be named. Who padded that list? I want to believe, I could be wrong, that some names that were not supposed to be there were added. So let that investigation take place. And names should be named. If we don't do that, we will never make progress. If we continue to sweep things, matters that are important under the cap, because we don't want to punish some people, we don't want to expose some people because maybe they are close aides of the president or influential members of the party. I don't know. But even the Attorney General himself should explain to Nigeria. And I have to make the point. When we talk about ethics in governance from a PR standpoint, it was the focus of Nachi Roundtable the other day, you know, when we had a conversation on ethics in governance. So I believe that we need to complain. We need to share information. That is the only way you can build trust. Nigerians can trust the government.
Indeed.
But if we begin to, you know, sweep things under the carpet And without coming clean and telling Nigerians what is really going on, it will be difficult to trust government and what they do.
Indeed. Building that trust, Mr. Brahma, is something that the government really has to think about, because Nigerian people have to believe you when you speak for you to be able to do anything in this country. I want to take you up on something else. Another story that's very disappointing. In fact, on our sister program, Dateline Abuja, this week, we're going to be talking about it, is the strike by the National Association of Resident Doctors, and how the grounding of healthcare services will be the result of this strike. And it's not the first time. For the national body, and I have to give this context, it's happened about twice in the recent years, but for the FCT chapter of the National Association of Resident Doctors, this year, this will be the fourth time, I think, or the fourth time that they'll be going on strike. And every time they go on strike, they get promises. Oh, we'll fix it. Okay, we've seen your demands approved. They'll see approvals, but we won't see the manifestation of those approvals. And the National Association is saying that they're facing the same matter. Are we playing with healthcare in this country? Why do you think this dance between the National Association of Resident Doctors, or whether it's the FC chapter or the ones in the states and of course the national body, why do you think this dance between them and the government continues for years?
Kayla, it is equally shocking to me. Whether they are resident doctors, whether they are nurses or university teachers or the academic team at staff at polytechnics, or even pensioners going on strike or having to stage protests. These things, we have discussed them in the past. But I think that the government needs to do more in terms of engagement and keeping to their promises. The healthcare sector is a critical and pivotal sector. The same thing with education. And I know in budget priority, education, health, defense spending, and the provision for debt servicing, they're always, giving top priority. Healthcare has become so expensive. How many people can afford to even go to private hospitals today? The resident doctors are saying that what they're being owed is about 38 billion. All the healthcare workers, not just resident doctors. And their demands, if you allow me, I would like to read them. They're talking about full implementation of new allowances proposed in July 2022. Immediate recruitment of additional clinical staff. Now, the doctor-to-patient ratio is abysmally poor, as you will agree with me. And the other challenge we've had with this poor welfare system for doctors or the healthcare workers, it has led to brain drain. Nurses are leaving, doctors are leaving, university teachers are leaving. And we really need to do something, because the time will come that we will not, even replacing them now is difficult. And that's why they're also saying that every form of bottleneck, hindering the replacement of clinical staff, doctors, nurses should be removed. A lot of nurses have left Nigeria, including doctors. Some are even going to other African countries, not just to Canada, UK, or the US or Germany. So I want to appeal to the president, the minister in charge of health and social welfare, that we need to address this matter quickly. Because they say that strike is total, comprehensive, and indefinite. You know what that means? Everything will be grounded in all the public hospitals, and apart from even going to the private hospitals that are expensive, buying medicines too now is very expensive. Marco, there's a lot of pressure here now, survival, so much tension and stress. A lot of people having to experience high blood pressure. And I can tell you, I have a friend now who had a major heart crisis recently because he says the blood pressure medicine that he was buying was expensive. And now he decided to, administer the drugs in a way different from what the doctor told him. And then he almost died. Had a heart attack. So what we're saying is, government, please intervene in this matter as quickly as possible. We don't want to be hearing about doctors or university lecturers going on strike anymore. And I must also commend the university lecturers for, suspending their 2-week warning strike. I think it shows they are listening. They're giving the government a 30-day window. For the resident doctors, see, I have doctors I also speak to every time. They are very, very unhappy with what is going on in Nigeria. They want us to revive the healthcare system, not just for their own sake, but for the patients, who need these services. So I believe that other issues are unpaid salary arrears. Why should we be having unpaid salary arrears? We're having poor working conditions, Kayla. We're having unjust dismissal. Yes, that's another matter. 5 resident doctors at the Federal Teaching Hospital in Lokoja is another matter they are complaining about. And I think a major demand is 200% increase, what they call consolidated medical salary structure. Let the government sit down with them. Engagement and sitting at the round table is always the solution. And I believe that we will make a headway as always. And they will call off the strike.
You know, I'm always very curious as to how it is, because if you speak with the Minister for Health, he's actually the coordinating Minister of Health. As a matter of fact, we saw him yesterday in, I don't know what country now, but he was with the First Lady on some campaign for tuberculosis. And the First Lady is an ambassador trying to put an end to tuberculosis, and he was there with her in the country where she was speaking. And if you speak with him, you will get the sense that a lot is happening in the medical sector. You know, recently a red letter was issued to all communities, especially at the PHC level, primary healthcare levels, saying that monies have now been released to communities for them to be able to do as they please. It will be their budget. It will be for all of them to sit down to decide what their needs are as a community and, you know, spend that money as a community. However, these are major issues that we continue to deal with. This issue of brain drain, this issue of strikes. Is it that we're not prioritizing properly, or is it that somehow we're spending money, but, you know, it's still not just getting to the people who ordinarily ought to be happy with the system?
The problem is that, excuse me, with this administration, I mean, we must make that point very clear. Most of these issues that are being raised, whether by the university teachers or doctors or nurses, they have been there from previous administrations. They were not addressed. And I think that is truly, truly unfair. What are they really asking for? They're not asking for too much. How can doctors and university teachers in other African countries be any better than their counterparts in Nigeria? Why? That should be the question. You know, so the government will continue to engage, that's my recommendation, and see how they can make provisions. And indeed, with increased revenue that we are celebrating, you know, for 2024 and even 2025, I want to appeal to Mr. President and the relevant authorities that we need to address these constant strike issues from doctors, nurses, and other, you know, important workers. The issue of payment, salary, emolument, welfare, they should be addressed. These people, what they're asking for is they just need more money. You know what 10,000 could buy for you 5 years ago? You need about 40,000 now or 50,000 to buy the same thing. And when nobody is saying increase doctors or workers' salaries by as much as 500%, no. But let there be consideration. Let government be sincere. And they should be trusted. If you sign an agreement, now they're referring to an agreement of 2022, that has not been honored. So governments come and go, there's a budget. Why are these issues not addressed? Where's the money going to? So with increased revenue, I think they should be given special consideration. Doctors, the healthcare sector, education sector. When you want to measure human capital index, these are two important sectors. So we cannot be saying the same thing over and over. From under President Olusegun Obasanjo, all through the Jonathan administration, before him, of course, the late Umaru Yar'Adua, then on to the Buhari administration. These issues have been there. So we should not make them look like it is a Tinubu problem. It is our problem. And the government, I believe, government of the day, let them continue to try and see what they can do. That's just my appeal. I want to appeal to the government to intervene as quickly as possible. We can't afford to paralyze our healthcare sector. You go to the public hospitals, apart from the decaying infrastructure, the environment is very, very unfriendly. I went to a public hospital recently, where the female surgical ward. I was disappointed. It looked like a refugee camp. I don't want to mention the place. You know, so we can do better. We can obviously do better. As a governor, the president keeps telling the governors to wear the grass more. He said it again recently. It just shows the governors are not doing enough. They need to do more at the state level and the local level. Nigerians need to feel the impact, you know, of what governance really means. And there should be ethical governance that can build trust, you know, between government and the people of this country.
Well, Mr. Ibrahim, we certainly will continue this conversation around the healthcare sector. That's what our next segment is looking at. But we have to thank you very much for your interventions this morning and for joining us at such short notice. Thank you so much. Mr. Hey Brahima is a publisher, editor-in-chief of Niger Times.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Kelly.
Kayla.
I'll take it.
I'm sorry about that. Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to all our viewers.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Well, we take a break now. When we come back, I did say we're still staying with the matter of health. Only recently, the PCN, that's the Pharmaceuticals Company, Council of Nigeria, Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, closed 498 premises, including 215 pharmacies and 200 illegal medicine stores. We've been speaking about the imperative for this and what exactly it seeks to achieve, especially when you consider the sea of fake drugs that Nigeria is dealing with. In just a moment, please stay with us.
By law, no drugs is supposed to be sold around the market because of health situations or conditions. We have been to many premises, and this one in particular is a wholesale premises where we discovered that controlled drugs are on the shelf, which is not acceptable by the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria. These drugs, supposed to be under lock and key, should be dispensed under the supervision of a registered pharmacist. But these drugs are found here on the shelf. So it's not acceptable. You see, we have so many people. We have people that are in the north, like bandits and other things. And these people, it's because they have access to these controlled medicines that are causing havoc in this country. So the Nigerian government will not fold its arms. You see, the citizens were not in problem. That's why we're here.
When people that are not trained are handling drugs, it spells doom for the nation because they will be handling potent medicaments like ordinary good items. That's why people that are trained, even people that are not pharmacy but are trained to handle simple remedies, are given license. And for people that have been sealed today, quite a number have been sealed. We are still getting reports from other places, from our teams that have gone out. Once they are registered, then we allow them. But if they are not registered, we do what's called supervised evacuation. And then we come here, we evacuate all their drugs, and then we allow the shop to be open for another use.
Well, those are excerpts now from the crackdown that was done on illegal pharmacies and drug centers in Lagos. We understand about 498 premises were sealed, 215 pharmacies, and 200 illegal medicine shops. The sealed shops, we understand, included 83 patent medicine stores, and they were spread across Agege, Alimosho, Mushin, Lagos Island, and the mainland. Well, what exactly will that achieve, especially when you consider the enormity of the problem confronting us? Well, this morning, we joined by the Registrar and the Chief Executive Officer of the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, Pharmacist Ibrahim Babashehu Ahmed. Thank you so much for joining us on Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Indeed, some brave efforts that you're putting up, your council is putting up. In my mind, when I was watching that, I was like, maybe you and the NDLEA ought to team up, because while one is dealing directly with narcotics, you are also dealing with some of your drugs that are being used or misused, abused, so to speak, and being dispensed in a way that it ought not to be. Do you see room for a collaboration there?
Certainly there is room. And I can tell you that the NDLEA see us as a strategic partner because though they act, their act cover the area of illicit drugs, we are responsible for registration and licensing of all facilities where entire health product health product are sold within the value chain. And of course, it's also within these facilities, including those that are not registered, which of course come under our enforcement purview, that these illicit products are being sold. So there is certainly an handshake. And I must commend and appreciate the chairman CEO for the partnership for understanding the fact that without PCN, working diligently and appropriately to checkmate, ensure that the supply chain is right, they will have challenge, even tracking the illicit products.
Well, you are dealing in licit, legal products. However, they are being, dispensed illicitly, so to speak. I mean, that's why you have to go and close down some shops.
Yeah.
And that's why you also have to check who is at the counter where some of these things are being dispensed, even when they have been put in a proper place.
Yeah.
So what exactly has been, because this is, what happened in Lagos seems to be like a small sampling of what is prevalent all over the country.
Yeah.
So what exactly were you trying to achieve with the exercise you carried out in Lagos?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy when you read the outcome of that report, or that crackdown.
Yeah.
There are three categories of facilities that were reported on. There were those that were duly registered and licensed, they're doing things in the wrong way, and there are those that are existing illegally. What that goes to show is that it's not about that one who is out there trying to offer medicine under regulation. The regulatory purview or mandate is across any and everywhere, and any person that is involved in handling or selling medicine anywhere. What I'm trying to establish here is the fact that it goes beyond whether it is licit or illicit products. It is about any and everywhere, and about any person doing anything with medicines, whether they are licit or illicit. They're supposed to be in the right way. Of course, those you call those drugs too that are controlled medicines, not illicit though, they can be handled but properly, because there are also procedures for handling them. And of course, they are well spelled out in our regulation. So it's entirely across the value chain in terms of persons, in terms of places, in terms of how they are being handled or processed. I don't know if you are getting me.
We get you.
Okay.
we get exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
There are a few things that were said in that particular track. One of the enforcers from your agency, and he said selling drugs around the market is wrong.
Yeah.
So all these markets in Abuja, that they are selling all kinds of drugs in containers, it's wrong.
Yeah. It will interest you to know, before I even answer that, I don't know any country in the world where you go to the market and you see medicine being sold.
Being hawked.
Not apart from hawking.
Even the pharmacies inside the market.
Yes, it happens.
Because in Garki, in this Garki place, you know that there are several pharmacies inside
we are getting there.
Okay.
Yeah. Before you talk about those ones, I hope you know of Idumota Market.
Yes.
You know of Sabongari Market in Kano before now.
Yes.
You know of Overhead Bridge in Anambra, in Onitsha. You know of Ariara. These things ought not to be. But unfortunately, we are where we are because of what I can call challenges within the regulatory space. What happened? Most of these facilities you see there are not even under the purview of a pharmacist. Many of them are what you can call, can I call drug merchants or patent and proprietary medicine vendors. But how did we get here? Because everybody, like I say, is supposed to be under the purview of regulation. We had a situation, the patent and proprietary medicine vendors are a group of individuals that were recognized by government way back to 1936 to sell over-the-counter medicines for three reasons. One, you have inadequate number of pharmacists as professionals. You have inadequate number of health facilities, and even the ones you have are skillfully distributed. But sadly, I don't know whether to put it that way, the authority to regulate these individuals was situated somewhere in the office of the Honorable Minister, who now delegate this authority. We had situations where these authorities were delegated as low as local government chairmen
So what happens now?
I'm coming. When that happened,
yes,
of course, anything goes wrong. When it was brought back to Pharmacy Council to sanitize, these people went to court. In the court, they were able to secure interlocutory injunction that lasted sometimes 15 years. What that means is that they say, go back to Pharmacy Council. We say, we are not going. The court say, okay, wait until the case is decided. And within this window, they became regulators unto themselves, granted licenses for their members to say anywhere. And that was how this market started. But locally, I'm happy to state the fact that the new law, that law has been repealed by the immediate past administration, and the control has been perfectly situated in the Pharmacy Council going forward. And we must also give it to the current administration. The health sector, renewal agenda, health sector renewal agenda of the Honorable Coordinating Minister of Health has given strong attention to the strengthening of regulatory bodies. And that is what is pushing us to do what we are doing.
So what are you going to do now? Because as is, there are so many, millions, I want to say millions of pharmacies in markets.
Yes.
What are you going to do?
That's a good question. Having come to this point, we have sat down with all these stakeholders, but it's not going to be all the markets that you are talking about. We will flush out every and any facility that is existing in any market, except, I want to tell you, the few that I'm going to mention now. The Idumota in Lagos, we have come to a conclusion that we are moving them to a facility called Coordinated Wholesale Center, which is going to be in Ijora. The construction has gone far. The one in Kano, we have successfully closed it down last year on February 17th. And when we closed down, we closed 1,321 illegal shops in that market. Today we have moved them to Dangoro. That of Onitsha, the construction is actively going on in Oba. We are moving them there. That of Ariara and Cemetery Road in Abia, we are moving them to Aba. All those so-called small markets, we don't recognize them. We have a few that the Honorable Minister has also considered necessary, sizable enough to be moved, like the Agbeni market in Ibadan, the one in Imo, and another one in Gombe. These are the ones that we consider. Every other one you see as a market. Well, you are just telling me about Garki market now, but I can assure you that we'll go to Garki market. There is going to be no alternative than to do for those people to dislodge. And interestingly, we did a surveillance operation here in Abuja. We went to 230 housing estates in Abuja in February, and we flushed all of them out of. We flushed out all illegal facilities that we found in them. Now you are giving us information on the market, Garki market. I'm saying it open. There is no going back. We'll go in there and we'll dislodge them. Good enough, we have good strategic partnership with law enforcement agents.
I was just going to say, how do you go there by yourself?
It's a task force. It's a task force that has everybody in it.
No. This is National Enforcement Arm of the Pharmacy Council. Okay. The task force, again, is an instrument of Cap C34 LFN, which targets those hawkers you are talking about, as well as other illegal facilities. And the task force is situated in NAFDAC, but the chairmanship comes from NAFDAC, but at the federal level had 2 pharmaceutical inspectors, not below the rank of principal pharmacists, from the Pharmacy Council. And then the Office of the Inspector General of Police is also in there. Then the task forces also exist in every state of the Federation. And in every state of the Federation, of course, we have office in every state. The state officer of the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria is also a member of the task force, along with the staff of the NAFDAC and the police.
Mark, I happen to have gone on a few raids with them in Abuja and in other adjoining states. I've gone with you on your raids.
Okay.
So when we go, and we go with NAFTA. So when we go, they catch the shop owner, they confiscate all these crazy looking drugs that we have in all this. The ones that are fake, the ones that were imported. And then of course arrests have been made. It's true. There have been convictions. But it comes back. That's the question. Do these crackdowns work? Give it a month.
Okay.
Give it a month, they will all be back.
There is apart from the enforcement, there is post-enforcement activity. We don't just close and go away. Every enforcement, once it ends, I'm giving a report. When I'm giving the report, we identify all the facilities that enforcement took place in them. We do a comprehensive report and send to our officers in the field. And we ensure that we follow through that report to ensure that anyone that is not supposed to reopen remains closed forever and ever. Those who are supposed to comply with certain conditions before reopening, we also ensure that they meet those conditions before reopening. So there could be those that were given compliance directive, and then after meeting those compliance directives, they are given the chance to reopen with the hope that they will not go back to do what they were doing before. But there are those that cannot ever be reopened for the conditions we found in them.
For that to happen, we certainly need the vigilance of everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, the pharmaceutical or the pharmacy, I don't know why I'm calling it pharmaceutical council.
No, Pharmacy Council.
The Pharmacy Council of Nigeria cannot do it alone.
Yeah.
And I want to imagine that because this is all in our best interest, that we will all keep our eyes open. We have to thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Sometimes you'll feel daunting, but we ask you not to be daunted.
Thank you very much.
And to do your best to keep us all safe.
And we keep appreciating the media for the support and the coverage, honestly. I mean, look at the report that was given out. We had a chat with channels in my office, I think about 2 months ago, and it was quite extensive, over an hour. And I mean, it was eye-opening. After that, I think September 29, Punch did an extensive review of our operations for 20 months and brought to light what we have done, what we have achieved, how the momentum has increased. I mean, this, and then today again, we're here.
We're partners in progress.
Thank you very much.
It is all for the health of all of us. So we have to thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with the Registrar, Chief Executive Officer of the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, his pharmacist Ibrahim Babashehu Ahmed. Thank you once more for your time with us.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's how we wrap it up this beautiful Friday morning. It's been quite a ride with you. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We ask you to please stay safe wherever it is that you drive, or if you're in a bus, or however it is you're getting around, and also be vigilant. Pharmacy Society of Pharmacy Council is asking you, pay attention. You know, you never can tell whose life you will be saving. But thank you for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Indeed, have a great weekend. Hey, at the risk of being charged by our producer, look out for hard copy tonight at 8:30 p.m. We're going to be talking narcotics on the show, so I'm looking forward to that one. But we have Business Morning at the top of the hour. I'm Kayla Megwa. Have a great weekend.